All right. We are back again. State of the Nation Friday. State of the Nation Nigeria. Nigeria, the most populous black nation on the face of the planet, on the face of the earth. Call it whatever you want. But good day to you all. Good day to the 7 continents of the world: Antarctica, Asia, Africa, Australia, Europe, North America, South America. More than 7 billion people in the world. And it is State of the Nation Nigeria on the Atlanta Discourse Channel. Today I have a friend, a brother, an erudite scholar. I always have erudite scholar. I know somebody said I like calling erudite. Yeah, they are erudite because most of my guests have interacted with them personally. I know they've earned their epaulets, And the guest we have today also has paid his dues, and he's just the man for the job. Because today we are discussing Nigeria's role in the new world order, So I need somebody that's all-encompassing, a diaspora that sees Nigeria the way it really is, that says it the way it really is. And here it's no old bear. We just say it the way it is. So that today I have Dr. Nelson Aluya. Dr. Aluya, welcome to State of the Nation on the Atlanta Discourse Channel.
Well, thank you. It's a great honor and opportunity to be on your show. I've watched you, do such amazing and fantastic work so far, and with your other guests who you call erudite. So to put me on that space makes me really makes me really glad as well. Thank you.
You are tested and trusted. But Dr. Aluya is a prominent Nigerian-American physician. He's back there in New Jersey. LK executive, public affairs leader, humanitarian, known for his contributions to medicine, diaspora advocacy, and community development. He's deeply involved in diaspora engagement and policy advocacy. He's even more known for that than the medicine, because he's always trying to help one way or the other. President, Nigerian-American Public Affairs Committee, that's the NAPAC-USA chapter, former chairman, Association of Nigerian Physicians in Americas, ANPA, that's New Jersey chapter, and former president, New Jersey Medical Association, founder of the Young Professional Leadership Agenda, YPLA, among so many other, if we don't want to bore you guys with everything about Dr. Aluya, but it's on the map, not just the map of America or of New Jersey, is on the map of the world. He's helping so much in Nigeria, community effort, voters registration, empowerment, scholarship, but he's a well-read man, and we've discussed at length. So we're looking at Nigeria's role in the new world order. Doc, President Tinubu, rounding up his visit to the UK, which I think is strategic for him. I was almost worried that a Nigerian president 2 weeks in office, no visit to 10 Downing Street, even if it's not a state visit, you at least, go there to, So the question is, as the most populous black nation in the world, how should Nigeria strategically position itself in the evolving global power structure, especially amid shifting alliance between major powers like the United States, China, and the global south? So, like I said, the president is running up his visit to the UK. So what do you think? A lot is shifting. There's crisis in the Middle East. Canada is trying to work with India, China, America is like America first. The alliance, the transatlantic alliance is, to call it shaky is an understatement, you know what I'm saying. So what do you think Nigeria should do in lieu of, everything happening?
Well, thank you once again, and thank you for the great introduction. To say the world is shifting, it's almost downplaying what it is. The world is going through a seismic change, a seismic, evolution.
Word,
and that things are coming so fast on every space. In science and tech, you see what's going on. The world is changing in that respect. AI is changing everything individually, on a family level, on a local level, state, national, and global level. This shift is everywhere, every time. And it's going to affect how you and I interact with one another and how we interact with our environment. And that's what these things are looking at. I did, one time in my life talk about the five technologies, how it would affect us as a people. Now, when it comes to Nigeria, like you said, the largest of the most populous black nation on earth. That is a big, big name and a big responsibility, because every so often you hear, and I even hear in the US, people tell me every time, Dr. Aluya, what is wrong with Nigeria? What is going on? The rest of the world is waiting for you guys, especially the rest of the black world. Africa is waiting for you all. And I said, yes, we're coming. Things do take time. There's a whole lot of things that we ought to be and what we ought to achieve, but we're not there yet. And one of the biggest issue, I must say, has always been leadership and the style of leadership. And the shifting changes in leadership structure and the individuals who are being at the helm of affairs of our country. Now, I can take it in multiple ramifications and multiple areas, right? In terms of not just leadership, but in terms of economics, in terms of security matters, in terms of health, in terms of everything else. Like you said, rightfully say, President Bola Tinubu is rounding up his tour in Great Britain, and like you said, it's a strategic move for him. And I'm sure saying that is deep-seated, and it's a very loaded word that you did say. Yes, because the election coming, and he needs to, set himself on the global stage to give that perception that the world has accepted him, and this is who that the world wants. We know that the wife, was here in America not too long ago when they had. He attended a Trump rally and a Trump event as well. So, yes, it's also on a strategic global space where Nigeria is on at this stage, in the face of the world, especially in face hanging out with the King Charles. So it really does brought Nigeria on the global space as well, for good and for bad. For those who love him, they'll say all the flowing and fantastic stuff. For those who don't like him, they will never see anything good in what he's doing. And a lot of people have asked, what is the gain for Nigeria? Why the trip at this time? What are we there to gain? If we're meeting with the king and not with the government itself, what does that mean for us? You understand? Couple of things. And I'll tell you this. For me, I did a tour of Nigerian universities recently in October, and I saw a lot of things that happened. Nigeria, at this stage, I would say are beginning to turn the curve around. Assiduously, a lot of people have said the last 8 years of the past president's rule of Nigeria was a disaster. And a lot of this did come out, and there's huge fallouts of it. Now, the good fallout, I will say, okay, what that 8 years taught Nigeria, and I said that even when President Buhari, blessed soul, may his soul rest in peace, I said that what he's going to teach Nigeria is this, that Nigerians will learn to depend on themselves and not necessarily the government. Nigerians will learn to depend on themselves and not necessarily the government. Because, look, the yardstick or the template for leadership, he never really possessed. And he seemed as if he was, I don't want to use the word stooge, to hold a place for those who to come subsequently. And that led to a whole lot of disastrous outcomes. And we see that. Growth rates, development, infrastructure, all of those, the whole thing was in chaos. We'll begin to see some turnaround now with Tinubu, and I'll tell you why. In all sincerity, Tinubu, I will say, has been the one Nigerian who has truly been prepared for the role he has right now, bar none. Yep. I mean, whether you like him or you hate him, I mean, I really don't care, but what I care about is Nigeria. But anything that results in progress for Nigeria is what I care about. Whether good or bad, the individual who's there is not, but what the policies they are putting in place, are they causing changes, tangible changes that we begin to see that will move Nigeria forward? That's all I care about. Now,
go ahead.
Teaching Nigerians to become who they are. I've seen Nigeria from when the fourth what do you call it, Democratic Republic came on,
Republic.
right, from Obasanjo, and what went on and where we are today. Look, Nigerians became self-reliant. They really did. You say Nigerians who were building their own systems on themselves outside of the government, outside of governance, because governance failed and governance failed Nigerians. So because of that, they relied on themselves. And people went out, I'll use the word, I borrowed, Nigerians began to hustle. They hustled on their own mandate.
Their power, their water, their everything.
Yes, their water, their everything, their lights and everything else. But guess what? They began to venture out of the country. The number of Nigerians who jackpot, I'll use the word, became so much. You understand? And to a large extent, it is bad. Yes, but eventually it will begin to yield dividends. For some of us who left over 20-something years ago, we'll begin to stabilize and find ways where we'll come back to contribute to the country. Now, some people who left 10, 15, or even 5 years ago, they're trying to find their feet. But guess what? In the next 5 to 10, 15 years, all of them will be settled as well. And they'll begin to contribute their bit to the country. And I must say this, and I said this before, that Nigerians, Africa, and the rest of the world should pay attention. You know why? And some people say it's just hope because it's a belief. That in the next 7 to 10 or 10 to 15 years, Nigeria will explode. And when I said that, people say, what do you mean? It explode by bombs or what? I said, no. It will explode by innovation. It will explode by tech. It will explode by entrepreneurship. It will explode by constructive development in that country. You know why? We'll begin to see the initial beats of what those things will look like. Now, when you put the whole thing together, like I said earlier on, whether you hate or like Tinubu, there's some policies that have been put in place that begin to...
Can you give me an example of those policies, one or two?
Well, one, taking away the oil subsidy. It's a great thing.
Okay.
That's one of it.
Yeah.
Because what it means that Nigerians would no longer... I mean, look, the whole thing was fraught with fraud and corruption. We all know that. The systemic corruption that it built on. Now, the deregularization of the system in terms of dollar to Nigeria exchange, where you now have the true floating of the Naira to truly tell Nigerians where the Nigerian Naira truly rests.
Okay, those are two good points. I don't think I disagree.
Right. So, and then guess what? The taxation proceedings and the structure that has been put in place, it's one. Because people tend to say, where there's no taxation, there's no representation. Look, the average Nigerian did not care. Because the average Nigerians from the 1980s lost hope in the country and lost value and ownership of that country. You know why? Because nothing was coming out of their pocket. The oil, the gold that was coming from the ground, they never seen it. It never touched them. It never affected their life one way or the other. So why would they care? So, and that's why those who are in power would circumvent the whole system to find ways to dissuade anybody else and shrouded the whole thing in conspiracy and threat that the average Nigerians did not even know what the oil cost is or whatever it was. So
I have so many questions for you.
Right, I know. So they did not care. But guess what? With the tax, why is the America what it is today? Because at any point in time, you have a tax structure that's put in place. You know what amount of tax you're going to pay at the end of the year.
Tax evasion is criminal.
Right. But guess what? Look, if people do not begin to touch into your money and ask you to pay, and those money that you're paying for, you begin to ask the people whose money, because look, if you take money from me and you don't provide light, my child is on the road, gets into an accident. I go to the hospital, no medication. One day I will ask you a question. And I'll start from the local government level as well. And that's on the government side. We'll talk about that. And hopefully we'll talk about statistics again.
Okay, let me quickly go to the UK visit. I don't think you've seen the meeting he had with the Prime Minister. So I think you talked about what the meeting with the King, but he met with the Prime Minister and there were some agreements signed. There was one on ports development. There was one on migration and security partnership, memoranda of understanding on so many areas, security, businesses, and so on. And there was another agreement on enhanced trade and investment. So the one I want to talk about is the one on migration and security partnership. It says a new agreement allows for faster removal of Nigerian citizens with no legal rights to remain in the UK, including the use of UK-issued identification document letter. That means that there's going to be fast deportation of Nigeria. I think maybe like Rwanda was a hub for, I think Rwanda was taking people from everywhere, but I don't think that's what Nigeria is doing. I think it's just going to be, okay, look, these guys, you have a lot of people here that, so we're just going to, without due process, we're just going to be tossing them home. Do you think, in 2 minutes, do you think that's a good deal for those guys? Because a lot of them don't want to come back, at least not now.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why a lot of them don't want to come back, because the country they feel, they perceive is in disarray. And they see the security threats in the country. So nobody wants to come to a place where you don't have light. You can be robbed anytime, or God forbid, you can be kidnapped and there's nobody to call. Meanwhile, in the UK, if you fall on the streets, you call 911, 999. You get the help that you want. So nobody wants that. And the feeds coming back from Nigeria is usually not good. You understand? The unabated corruption and all that. So yes, they don't want to come back. And besides, remember, these people paid. A lot of them have sold their houses, sold a lot of things just to go over. So there's nothing to come back for, right? And what would your family tell you? What would you even tell them? To come back and start from the beginning? No, they don't. But however, one thing we need to understand, that in the last month, the UK strategically came up with policies and procedures that would affect even their own citizens, to the point where if you owe any tax, local, regional, or even national tax in the UK, and you travel out and you come to the country, they hold you at the airports. Yes, they will. And they make you pay or sign an undertaking of how you pay those amount of money. So what does that mean? The UK is suffering, is burning. It's burning, right. Burning.
Economically, a lot of countries in the world are suffering, but UK increases.
So UK is not an exception. So they're all looking for ways where they begin to save money. So why would they begin to pay for those who they can't afford to account for, or those who are not contributing economically to their country? So obviously, it is not only Nigeria that's signing this.
Canada is doing the same thing somehow.
Right. So everybody is doing that. So Europe is looking at immigration issues right now. But that is a problem that they created over 10, 20, 50, 100 years ago, right? Where they degraded the economic status, the emotional and political structure of nations of Africa, right? To the point where the average citizen is so despondent, they want to leave. So where would they run to? To those countries where they are stealing goods and products and raw materials were taken to develop. So they're coming to them. You understand? So now it's a 360 thing, coming to them.
Okay, so I'm looking at our population and productivity of Nigeria now. We've said it that we're the largest concentration of Black people on the face of the earth. Statistically, 1 out of every 4 sub-Saharan African is a Nigerian. That's minus everybody in the North African conclave of Africa, And 1 out of every 6 Black person, including all the Black people in America, Jamaica, whatever, is a Nigerian. So I'm looking at Nigerian population is often described as its greatest asset. You understand? I mean, manpower, that's there's no doubt about that. Even in the United States here, I've read statistics that tell me that 7 out of 10 Black doctors are Nigerians. Right. And it's true, So, yet economic output remains relatively weak, despite the fact that we have that huge population and what have you. So what structural reforms are necessary to convert this demography into an advantage, into real geopolitical economic power, because that actually aligns with our topic for today.
Right.
Yeah, if our population is our greatest asset, how do we convert it to an economic tool like India has done, like China is doing? Because in about 15 years' time, we'll be the third most populated country in the whole world.
Correct.
After India, China, it's going to be Nigeria. So, for example, in 15, 20 years' time, will Nigeria be able to feed the population? Are we ready agriculturally? Yeah, maybe some semblance of technology, but are we ready? Today, we don't look ready. Maybe there's some flashes here and there, but are we ready? So how do we convert that manpower to an economic,
Well, again, that's a very loaded question, and
I understand, but
it takes multiple steps, and I'll take it in graduations, right? So the question is this: what's our population right now, and what are the projections of those population, so that we begin to know where we are?
Let's say 220.
Correct.
The King of England said 230.
Right.
I know we're above. I think we're in Pakistan about the same. I think Nigeria and Pakistan. But when I calculate fuel consumption, I always look at what Pakistan is consuming. That's why I agree with what you said about fuel subsidy removal. You understand? Because if we are Pakistan are the same population and they are taking maybe 25% of what we are said to be consuming, then there's a fundamental issue. But back to what we're
right. So that's that. And then in the next, by 2050, it will up to about 400, million Nigerians.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is the productive component of that country? What's the population that are youth? You can conclusively deduce. Because if you look at countries like China, with development and advancement, the population of China is shrinking. And they see that. And that's why they've now removed the one-child policy. But we, in our birth rate, were really exponentially great. Our birth rate is more than the whole of Europe and Russia put together, including Ukraine. So that's huge. But then what do we do with that? And how do we begin to harness that to a point where it begins to yield value for us? Now, to discuss that, how much do we have? Because you begin to think of, hey, how much do we have that will help us prepare to produce, develop, and evolve our economy to a point where we truly become globally relevant? Now, what's our GDP today? Our GDP today is about $252 billion, right? As compared to, well, I think right now we're number 3 in Africa. We used to be number 1, right? South Africa, Egypt, and Nigeria.
At the time we were 5th. I think we're back to 3 now. Yeah.
Right. So, and that's how bad things became. But we'll begin to see nominal issues and advancement. Now, when you talk about our GDP compared to everybody else, what is our projected growth rate? The projected growth rate for last year was about 3.5. They projected for this year about 4%, right? And about maybe 4.2, 2027. So that's what you begin to look at. And you compare yourself with everybody else. For instance, India has done well, like you said. China has done well, but like you said, right? Why were they able to do this? Key things: leadership, perpetuation of leadership, and perpetuation of policies that will see the country grow. Now, people tend to say, oh, you know what? Nigeria is too diverse. Oh, we have tribal issues and all that. We have religion. We're not as diverse or religiously polarized like even India. And China has their issues as well.
I like that example. I love the example you're giving. Yeah.
Right. But they've been able to put it together because you know why? The nationalistic interest, the value on ownership of a country, that's what drives the people.
Yeah, quick interjection. Yeah. So in South Africa, in India, and even Ghana, there's a sense of nationalism. It was easy for people to rally around Nkrumah. In South Africa, it was easy to rally around Mandela, whether you're Zulu or Social, or you understand, it was easy. Even in Ghana, it doesn't matter whether you're Ashanti or whatever, it was easy to, in India, it was easy to rally around Mahatma Gandhi, despite all the issues they had. Pakistan came out, but subsequently Bangladesh, they have Hindu, Muslim, Christian, and all that. very volatile democracy, large democracy, but the elections are free and fair, you know. So when you talk about nationalism, did we in Nigeria, for example, have anybody who could rally around just for that nationalism?
In all sincerity, within the last 30 years, no, we really haven't had anybody. Really.
I'm talking pre-independence now. Was there anybody?
Well, I mean, we had
Ghana, South Africa, India, you know.
Yes, so we had a lot of brilliant leaders. We have people who, by all Nigerian standards, we could say they became sages. Tafawa Balewa.
Based too. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Tafawa, right. Well, in Nigerian standard, Tafawa Balewa, Sardauna, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Chief Obafemi Awolowo. But I'll tell you this: one of the biggest thrift with those individuals, in as much as they had the collective agenda of freeing Nigeria as a nation, right? As compared, because it was a movement. You need to understand that. That's the movement that started way back in the late 1940s. And it was not just Nigeria alone, it was the whole of Africa. And that's why if you look at the movement that started in the late 1940s, resulted in something that affected the entire Black race across the globe. And that was political freedom. The political freedom for Africa was the independence, right? So Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, and all that. So they got into the bandwagon. Now in America, it was the civil rights. In the Caribbean, it was also independence. If you look around, the 1960s was what led to those things. Now, what we're talking about today, and hopefully that will give us global relevance, is what I call economic liberation, right? The difference between freedom and liberation. But we'll talk about that another time.
I mean, where Nigeria is 65 years old, for example.
Right. So, but the difference between
5-year-old man cannot blame colonial master on the past.
Right. The difference between the people like Jomo Kenyatta, Nkwame Nkrumah, and Haile Selassie and all that, they were nationalistic figures who were fighting nationalistic for their own interests of a nation. However, maybe for us, we had too many cooks in the kitchen. You have all the tafala and all that. But these individuals were sectional or regional in their mind thinking. I'm sorry.
No problem, but
because they were sectional. They were sectional and regional in their thought process. And if you look at the things that Sardauna talked about, comparing what the North needed to do compared to what the East needed to do.
But there's a different school of thought, Right. I agree with what you're saying, but the different school of thought, which a lot of people are saying, that I said then, that they said back, and they're saying now, and we're going to say it again, is that if what you call Yoruba land was a nation, one nation on its own, it would have been easy to rally around and see Awolowo as a national figure. And same thing for Azikiwe or Badiwe in the southeast and south.
And Nahura and all that, right.
And it will have been very easy for everybody in what you call the North today, which is North Central, Northeast, and Northwest, to rally around Sardauna or whether it was Tafawa Balewa. Do you understand? So the second school of thought, which I'm talking about, that a lot of people think that we're not even supposed to be together in the first state, and that's an injustice ab initio. You understand? So please go on. I'm just trying to.
Well, I'll tell you this, yes. And
I don't want to take the shine away from those founding fathers.
Right. So I'll give you a different.
Nationalistic.
No, but I'll tell you this. You see, that individual regional shine or persuasion is what has become the excellence of Nigeria today. And I'll twist it into that so that you understand what it is. So in as much as these individuals had their regional agenda and persuasions, right? And these were nations that were put in together. But guess what? So also was China. So also was other kingdoms. You understand? So also by India. If you look at India and all that, these had nations or kingdoms that were put together. Guess what? Nigeria was amalgamated, whether by the white man or by whoever. Look, at the end of it all, God allowed it to happen and we're here. You're a Yoruba man. I'm from Delta. We're Nigerians. And we're so damn proud of it.
Pakistan left India now. Bangladesh came out of that.
No, but guess what? The India we have today is the core India. The others for certain reasons, tribe or whatever, religion or whatever.
Yeah, but we fought a civil war.
But guess what? They fought a civil war. Can the Bangladesh and Pakistan that left, can they compare with India today? They can't.
They're not doing badly. I mean, they're not doing.
Again, it's semantics. It's a context. They are not doing badly. They compare with India.
Don't worry.
No, they can't.
You know why we call it Atlanta discourse? It's also a discussion because I have an opinion too.
Right.
I discuss with my people too when I have erudite scholars like you coming.
Right.
I can tell you for free, right? If Biafra, for example, let me just give only that example. If what they call Biafra then was able to succeed, I mean, there are 5 things I'm very sure that will have happened. There will have been a Biafran Airways, okay, that will rival Ethiopia Airways, if not better. That is one. I am sure that the coal in Enugu, all these 5 are minimum. The coal in Enugu will have been used not just to power the southeast and south. They will be selling power to other parts of Nigeria. Number 3, the ports in Calabar and One, they will be major sea hubs today in the whole of Africa. In Calabar, that cement factory, I don't know if there will have been a Dangote or not, but there will have been an economic Leviathan. You understand? I can even make it to 7, but because of time, I want you to.
So I'll tell you this. I get you, but I don't want to bust your bubble.
No, you can bust it.
What is Biafra? What would have constituted the Biafra that you're talking about? Would Biafra include the present riverine area in Delta? So hear me out. See, that's where people get it wrong somehow. When you talk about Biafra, would that involve present Edo Delta? Would that contain present Calabar? And would that also contain Are you saying the south part of Nigeria?
Right.
Then guess what? Today, those people who are the south, who basically own the oil from whose soil is taken from. Isoko land, one of my towns, has 52 oil wells. Now today, if you look at those places, there's gross underdevelopment, huge one. Would the same have been happening in Biafra? Would Isoko nation be rising up with Ishekiri and Ijo people saying, you know what, the marginalization of a certain group of people who constitute Biafra today, but we don't know that.
I think they'll be better off under that.
But that's your perception. Because the same oppression that certain regions of Nigeria cry about, so the majority will always take the rule in any nation, period. And you think that the oil that would have come out of Isoko land or Ishekiri land will not be used to develop Enugu or Abakaliki?
That will have been as well. No, I don't want to.
But that's another story. So you understand? So today, there would have been agitation as well. As remember,
Yoruba land, there's always.
Right, as you remember, the Ken Saro-Wiwa came up. So Ken Saro-Wiwa would have come up a whole lot earlier, and is even in a country like Biafra. But that's a different story.
There's South Sudan, capital Juba. There's no peace. They are fighting themselves. Sudan, the core country too. There's a lot of mayhem. So let's just leave that. Let's move on.
So coming to the Nigeria as a context. The reason why people talk about Nigeria, even Nelson Mandela talked about Nigeria, that the day Nigeria wakes up, the rest of Africa would not be the same.
Absolutely.
And not just Nigeria, not the rest of Africa, the entire Black race, period. Because one of the things that people tend to forget when they talk about growth and development and all that, we also have outliers that influence our structural development progress. Right. And those outliers were slavery, colonization. We tend to forget that. Look, the average Westerner or the Caucasian race do not respect or value the Black man, period. And you need to understand that. Yeah. So they're not allowed.
I will know because.
Right, you know that. Yeah. You know that. They do not. So they do not value or respect the Black man. Whether the Black is in Nigeria, whether the Black is in South Africa, whether the Black is in the United States or the Caribbean, they don't. So in that respect, do they want to see the Black man grow up to his or her own, the Black person? No, they don't. And that's why you see the external influences that has continuously, even to today, denigrated the African continent, where we have nationalistic interests and leaders who come up to great platforms and development structure for the continent, and they're taken out consistently. We see that where they replace those nationalistic leaders or progressive leaders with stooges for their own interest.
So why is Asia, if you go to Asia,
I tell you that, and that's what you see, you're coming down to the point. If you look around, and I had the discussion today, and I said, why the heck is the black man so hated across the world? Because in all sincerity, you and I know that the Asians hate blacks and they look down on blacks. Caucasians do. The Spanish people do. Every other race look down on us completely. They really do. And we need to understand that.
We are partly at fault for that.
No, but not necessarily. Look, it's a narrative. When you create a narrative of slavery for 400 years, that narrative is hard to get rid of. And it's perpetuated by the press, where even in the US, because the US became the global mirror of the world, and they showed blacks consistently.
I don't want to release you without you answering 3 more questions.
Right, and I will take that. So
you don't have too much, but I have 3 more.
Right. So when you have that portrayal that is put out there, and that's why as an individual, you alone, you are there, they will respect you. They see Dr. Aluya, they respect me and value me for my intelligence and my brilliance. But guess what? When they put us together, we become a threat and fear to them. And that's what the whole race is doing. So when the rest of the world, India, China, everybody else has been allowed to grow and to develop and build, the black race was not. That's one. And it was deliberate. We need to understand that. And it's happening till today because for so many reasons, for their economic survival. You know that. And we see that till today. So that's one. So for Nigeria to get to a point where they can own their own, because like they said, the day when Nigeria catches a fever, the rest of Africa are going to a seizure. And that's what it is. But we'll begin to see those telltale lines. Afrobeat is one of it. Look at our movie industry. It's going to get into a point where it's about.
Let me ask you, maybe your point. Let me go to my next question. What I was going to say about Asia anyway I think you didn't get me in that. What I was trying to say is that as a Commonwealth country, a lot of African countries were Commonwealth colonized by Britain. So the example I was trying to give was that there were a lot of Asian countries too that were colonized by Britain, and India that we were talking about was a fantastic focal point. The Indians, you have Christian, Hindus, Muslim and all that. We can see they didn't lose focus from their culture. They didn't digress too much. They were divided too. A lot of divide and rule were played. But you could see that the Indians did not really lose track of where they were coming from. You understand? They still wear their regalias, all those kind of
things.
Because
they did not disrupt their core fibers. They weren't. Okay. The black man core fiber was...
Don't worry, I'm not going to allow you to go into that so that we don't go off. So let's talk about corruption and governance. Corruption is a very big issue, After that, we're going to talk about free and fair election. Then we'll probably call it a day. So
right, and then what the main premise of it, what we need to do to truly build Nigeria into the global relevance.
Yeah, that's how we're going to round it up. You understand? So how do we tackle corruption? You said we all agree it's leadership. If we have the requisite leader and all that. So let me even lump it together. Corruption and government crisis and free and fair election, because it's all part of governance. We have been finding it very difficult to have free and fair election. So you can lump that together before we end it with the main crux of the discussion for this.
So you see, and I'll say this, and I'll give you a context.
Please go ahead.
If you take 10 Nigerians in the 1980s, line them up, and say how many of them were corrupt out of 10, you'll be 2. But if you take 10 Nigerians today and line them up today and ask how many of them are corrupt, it'll be 8 out of 10.
Oh, okay.
So you see the difference. So the corruption became a habit. Then it became a tradition. Now it's a culture.
Oh, wow.
And cultures are hard to break. So it takes a disruptive, revolutionary mindset to disrupt and uproot the fibers and the fabrics of corruption in Nigeria. It would. But one of the ways of doing that and taking the approach is two prongs. One, you have to have somebody who will come up with a rallying cry for Nigeria, giving Nigerians hope again, where they don't have to run out of their homes around their country, right? Giving them a sense of belonging, a sense that, you know what, if you ask me to sacrifice, not just for today, that sacrifice will yield dividend for my children and children's children. Nigerians love their children. We really do. And that's why we sacrifice so much. And that's why if you look around here in the United States, we're the most educated minorities. You know why? Because Nigerians would take 3-4 jobs just to make sure that all his or 5 children go to college and they come out tops and they go get their masters.
Migrating blocks.
That is the sacrifice. Because they know it works. Because the system. So when we begin to have leaders who will carry on that rally cry, that leader, first and foremost, must show the dividends. One, essence of curbing undue expenses. I mean, if you buy a G-Wagon or Prados for governors, for every house of rep, and the average man is living in abject poverty, can't live, and each one of those is about what, $80,000 to $100,000 car. And if you translate that, how much is that in Naira? And they begin to see that these guys are living in opulence. They're building houses, mansions, and flying private jets and owning private jets. And the average man cannot send his or her child to school. How do you expect that family or that man or that woman to believe in that country and want to sacrifice? Because when they're sacrificing, you are living in overt opulence. They will never believe you. So the kind of leader who would show by example, first by cutting costs, by living. Look, they talk about a few governors and Peter Obi who flies, commercial, whatever, and goes on economy. Yes, those are some of the things we begin to see that. You understand? Even our daddy geos and imams, some of who are owning private jets and flying private. Do you know what it is? Buying a private jet is not a singular sale, singular purchase. You have to maintain them. You have to pay engineers who come from outside. The cost of fuel. Look at gas is going up now. Where is that money coming from?
Doc, how do we elect those kind of leaders when our elections are not free and fair?
Right. So one is to get our people become involved in the political process. And I'll tell you some of the things I've done.
Go ahead.
A couple of years ago, I went local. I had my so-called local government. I have North and South. And I saw young, brilliant men who were speaking the right language, who were running for office. So what did I do? I supported them. And when both of them got elected, I approached them, not because I want contract or anything. No, because I know they're thinking well for the local government. So I said, you know what? I'll come. Let me come do a health fair. Let me come do speaking engagement. And I did. They received me because they know I supported them. And not just that, because they know that I am not asking anything from them, but I'm wanting to see that they succeed. So at the local level. Now, even councillors, I supported councillors, people who are running at the council level. So for those of us who are living in the diaspora, how many of us know who our local government chairman is or who's running for local government? Who are our councillors? It's not about pulling together a health mission, and you go and you do mission and whatever. Those are things that will make us feel good and give us a sense of reprieve, seeing that people are suffering. No, it's a coordinated effort. And when we talk about that organizations like NIDO or ANPA or other associations must find individuals or other collaborative organizations in the diaspora, whether it's the UK or Britain or US, to come together and say, you know what, let us seek people who are the local level, who are speaking the right languages, so that we get them elected.
But they should even sponsor diasporas to go.
Yes. I just told you what I did. I sponsor a few people. I still sponsor a few people who are running for councillor and all that. What I did recently was, guess what? The voters registration. How many of our people are really registered to vote? And I got a young man who's brilliant, and I sponsored the voters registration program to, one, educate our people about their civic rights and responsibility of voting, telling them that they need to vote the right people in and all that. And when somebody said, oh, Dr. Aluya, you're doing this, it's going to amount to nothing. You know why? Because votes are not counted in Nigeria. I say, you know what? Yes, it may be today, but guess what? Every little step that we take towards progress becomes a compounding feature for the future. So if all of these things come together, so if you and I begin to look at the local government level, then we begin to look at that. We're talking about voters registration, diaspora voting. There are people who are obstructing diaspora voting in the House of Rep. Guess what? We need to know who those people are and raise up people who will vote and who run against them. Because there's nobody running against them. That's why they're able to do what they do. If we begin to say, you know what, Mr. A, this guy is in Senate or in the House of Rep, cannot get diaspora voting, look, come run. We'll put money behind you, run against it, we'll primary him.
A quick one before we go. A quick one. I can always tell you that time is not fair. A quick one. Do you think, one of the things you've said that I really like is that it looks like this presidential system of government is a bit on the expensive side for Nigeria. Do you think, two questions now, 2-1. Do you think we should try the parliamentary system, 1? And 2, do you think, based on the way the security situation is in Nigeria today, do you think people will need to sit down as ethnic group, as Nigerians, to renegotiate our political future once again? Can you do that in 1 minute? I know it's hard, but try.
Yeah, it's inevitable. It's time that Nigerians truly come back and sit down. They've talked about, constitutional review and individuals who truly love the country. Now, at this stage, it's hard to find out those who truly love the country anymore, because it seems as if everybody's compromised, right? Who are the people who really love Nigeria and can say, you know what, let's sit down and have a constitutional review and create a template for what the future will look like today, tomorrow, and in the next 10, 20 years. Africa's 2063. What do we have in Nigeria that we can, point to and say, you know what, in the year 2063, 2020, 2100, this is what Nigeria will look like. This is what the roadmap that we're creating for all of you will look like. Yes, the presidential system is expensive, but guess what? Just like the mud, a lot of people are thriving in that mud. In any strife, there are people who are bound to gain. And by the time you call people to come sit down, those are the first people who obstruct those things. Because guess what? If you now say, you know what, let's have one layer of legislative system in Nigeria, where would it be? You cut out the Senate or the House of Rep? And those people who they will throw tantrums, right? Because of the gains that are coming out of it. It therefore means these people do not truly love the country.
We need to cut the cost of governance,
We really need to. But guess what? You see, at the end of it all, one of the ways we can achieve that is to use technology to answer our questions, where we make things begin to be competent, and we reduce cost and redundancy by knowing, understanding, adopting, and utilizing technology. And that's why even the tax reform is one of it, because you'll be forced to adopt technology in that space, because otherwise the corruption will go on. Even in procurement and everything else. Look, how much is the average salary of the House of Rep member of the Senate? Yes, some people say, oh, we have that. But what about the emoluments that they have? Or the other, things that are padded into the salaries? Do we know that? The projects, the constituency projects that are allocated to them, how are those measured? And who's measuring them? Who's keeping accounts? And who's reporting to the local government centers where those constituency projects are supposed to be executed? Who's reporting to them? Who is carrying out town hall meetings at the local government level to say, you know what, this is what you have, this is what you need to do? In the United States, House of Rep members go back home and discuss with their constituents. How many of that is taking place in Nigeria. At the federal level, House of Rep member, state level, House of Rep member, and at Senate level.
Constituency projects and
right. How many? Because what they do, you know what? They have taken Nigerians for fool. And like somebody said, the average Nigerian politician is very smart. But guess what? They're deviously smart. Deviously smart. That's the problem. And they've taken Nigerians for a ride, and they've taken us for a fool. And you know what? They bring tribalism and religion and ethnicity to muddle the waters so that people who ought to ask questions and seek questions and not just seek questions, but review their answers that are given, they make them look stupid or redundant. And that's why the perpetuation of what we see continues to go on. So, but guess what? There's a day where the reckoning will come. Things can never and will never continue like this.
I've said it so many.
They will, and they ought to wake up and realize.
I hate to stop you. You're making a lot of sense. There's plenty to learn from you, but I mean it's clear. 734 local government. That means we have 734 chairmen, 734 vice chairmen, 734 local government secretary. We're not counting councillors. We have 36 governors, 36 deputy governors, 36 states.
So I'll tell you this. So one of the things, I'm a board member of the Center for Fiscal Transparency and Integrity Watch. So what we've done is to create a transparency index for Nigeria. You know, the Transparency International do theirs, the ease of doing business and the transparency program of all nations. We did that in Nigeria, right? And we looked at 770 local government in Nigeria and 444 parastatals. And where for the 4th year, we've published the results. But how many Nigerians know that? You can go online and look us up.
Right, we don't read that.
There are tangible progress that's taking place in the country, but I bet someday all this tangible progress that's taking place is like a chess game. They all eventually will come together.
Dr.
I pray that the day they come together, when Nigerians wake up, those who are bent on to continue to denigrate the progress of Nigeria, they will also wake up because they'll find themselves in the minority. It's going to take place inevitable.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aluya. Thank you for your time. We are definitely coming back. Don't worry. One last question. Are you going to run for public office in Nigeria in future? Yes or no? I don't want you to explain. Yes. I allow you to explain.
I don't sound like a politician. You know what? Look, I love my nation, my country so much.
If the opportunity arises, will you? Yes or no?
I love it so much that I care so much about it that
sound like a politician.
Run for office. I have to.
Okay, it's a wrap there. You've heard from Dr. Al. I think he will run. I don't think he will run away from it. I mean, he's passionate about.
Well, when they call me, I will.
I won't push you. I'll support you because I don't think he's running. That's the problem. You need people that know what to do. You understand? A lot of people get into office, they don't know what to do. You understand? I think
and that's why you heard me talk about knowledgeable leaders. We just don't need leaders anymore. We need knowledgeable leaders. Leaders who understand what the global dynamics is taking place. Understand that the world is changing.
I know you're not running.
New world order being created.
I know you're not
running. Trump or whatever.
I know you're not running in 2027. We'll still hold you back. Then 2031, we are going to unleash you. So it's a wrap there. Thank you everybody for your time. I'm sure you all enjoyed the session with Dr. Nelson Aluya. I didn't keep quiet. It's difficult to have a guest like him and not really engage. So we'll see you guys on Friday, on Monday, we'll see you on Monday. We're going to have another edition on Monday. So thank you for all you do. It's a wrap. Take care. Dr. Aluya, thank you once again. Thank you for your time. And you will be back, no doubt.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you once again. Thanks for all you do.
You're welcome.